approaching to an investor for funding, the first question they are going to ask you, or you need to tell them that we are looking for this amount of money. The immediate question will be, what do you want to do with this amount of money? You ask for 1 crore, they will say, why not 2 crore? Why not 50 lakh? So you have to answer that. First thing is you have to know how much money you need. Second, why do you need? And then what kind of money, meaning whether it's in the form of equity, debt, or preference equity, etc., etc. In a nutshell, we are going to cover different sources of money, and then bootstrapping, crowdsourcing, incubation, acceleration. Will be explaining them. The core of this discussion on venture funding will be around business angels and venture capitalists. BA is business angels and venture capitalists. Partially we'll be discussing about debt funding, and finally we'll be talking about different government schemes through which you can get grant, you get seed capital, then what not, all kinds. Now let us just introduce the subject and little bit about dilution in terms of sharing equity with the investors, etc. But before we move to the main topic, I'd like to introduce two personalities. One is Mr. Arjun Malhotra, another is Shiv Nadir. Arjun Malhotra happens to be one of our alumni. In fact, is one of the greatest alumni of IIT Kharagpur. Greatest in many sense. He has achieved many things, and more importantly, he has donated so much money for IIT Kharagpur that many of the subjects would not have been here without his contribution. And more importantly, he never hankered for names. Like he started GS Channel Institute of School of Telecommunication with full money, I think maybe 15 crore or maybe 20 crore. I'm not sure how much money he donated, but then his name was not anywhere. It is the name of his teacher. He used to respect Professor GS Channel so much that he set up this school in his name. Then he started MN Farooqui Center of Innovation. So MN FIC Center of Innovation, many of you are familiar. Second year students might not have been, but others are familiar. And this entire money was donated by Mr. Malhotra, but his name is nowhere. It is in the name of Professor MN Farooqui, who used to be a faculty at IIT Kharagpur in electronics department. His faculty. So that shows his the social dimension, the kind of, see, whenever IIT needed money, and if he is there in the meeting, he used to be there. He used to be very frequently visiting IIT Kharagpur. Presently, he is in California, but he commute between California and New Delhi, because New Delhi is his residence, even though he hailed from Kolkata. Of course, his family hailed from Peshawar, Pakistan. They migrated at the time of independence. Migrated and settled in Kolkata. After graduation from IIT Kharagpur, he went to Harvard Business School and then came back, started career at Delhi Cloth Mill. In those days, there was no Infosys, no TCS, no present day companies. Even Hindustan Lever was not there. At that time, it was Hindustan Lever, but I'm not sure whether Hindustan Lever was present in those days. There was a time when most of the foreign companies were driven out from India after independence. Sometime after independence, it was Indira Gandhi who took that decision, that in presence of foreign companies, Indian companies are not able to grow. So they were driven out. That was, whether that was a right decision or wrong, it's a different discussion. Now, he was working in Delhi Cloth Mill called DCL Limited, or maybe DCL, sometimes they call textiles. So in this DCL actually diversified into pocket calculator. So those days there was no computer. When Mr. Malhotra started his career, personal computer was yet to evolve. So You can imagine that obviously there was no software company around. Now this only computing device that was there is the calculator, and people are amazed that machine can calculate. Unthinkable experience. You may not be even imagine as to what was the feeling when the first calculator emerged in the marketplace. Till then, people never trusted that, or people never believed that a machine can do calculation. There was a mechanical machine that used to do calculation, and it was quite obvious, and it was very imaginable how it does. But when calculators emerged, people were kind of taken aback. They were flabbergasted. But then initially there was mistrust that it may not calculate rightly. Maybe there will be a lot of mistakes, but finally it emerged, and then gradually Arjun Malhotra and Shiv Nadir were the pioneer in bringing personal computers in India to India. In fact, personal computer came to India when Apple started marketing personal computers. Unbelievable. We were not even a developing nation in those days. But thanks to Arjun Malhotra and Shiv Nadir, India got computer concurrently with US when Apple started shipping computer. Not only that, India started exporting computers in different countries, including Singapore, New Zealand, perhaps Australia, when Arjun and Shiv Nadir, they both together and with other friends started what is called Hindustan Computers Limited. Of course, before Hindustan Computers, they started several other companies, but eventually they started Hindustan Computers Limited, which is now known as HCL Computers or HCL Limited. HCL Limited. HCL is a listed company, and their market value is more than 1 lakh crore rupees. You can see the share price is wonderful company. Of course, Arjun is no longer with HCL. He is managing many other companies. He served as vice chairman of HCL, and then he called it quit in 98 or so. Arjun also co-founded TechSpan, that was a software company, served as chief executive officer of the US-based firm Headstrong. Headstrong emerged after merging TechSpan and some other US company. He co-founded SpeakMackey. SpeakMackey is to be very vibrant at IIT Kharagpur and across the country, all across the country. It's a cultural establishment. He set it up with a friend called Kiran Sheth, and they promoted classical music in a big way in India. During our BTech days, we used to see a SpeakMackey program happening very frequently. Now, this text has been copied verbatim from Wikipedia. I have just removed the references, otherwise it will look like extraneous material. Nothing has been edited. It is just whatever is written there. I thought there's no point recreating. You don't have to memorize anything. This is not part of the syllabus. But then whatever value that you can take, you try to take. Maybe there will be a question on Arjun and Shiv Nadir, whatever I am talking about, not any date or something. This is absolutely, you don't have to memorize anything. Just try to understand the kind of revolutionary role that these two guys played in transforming Indian economy. Our bad luck is that our economy had a different models that did not provide the scope of growth. It was a fully controlled economy. Nothing could be done without government permission, and that permission would never come, something like that. There are many doing the this point. Ratan Tata wanted to bring a car. In US, the US economy was transformed by Ford when they launched a public car. Till then, cars were a costly affair, and only the rich and famous used to afford a four-wheeler. But Henry Ford realized that cars should be made available to anybody and everybody in order to promote the economy. Unbelievable it may sound that an entrepreneur would think that way about a country while he should be bothered about his personal wealth creation. Luckily for the civilization, it is the interest of both that go together, that go hand in hand. If you think of doing something great for the country, it will automatically create wealth for yourselves. If you try to create for yourself in a meaningful way, automatically you will create wealth for the nation. Without creating wealth for others, it's really very difficult to create wealth for yourselves. You perhaps may resort to some hera-pheri, some fraudulent activities that will not take you anywhere. And there is almost 100% possibility that people who resort to illegal means, they get caught. Even if they don't get caught, they remain besotted with legal hassles, and then their entire life is devoted to sorting out conflicts, other things. People who try to do good to others, or people who try to do business in a most honest way, straightforward way, they lead to happier life, number one. Number two, they end up doing so much for the nation, for the society at large. Now, you can read about Malhotra. Malhotra was a highly charismatic character. Most importantly, look at this green text. Malhotra was described by Business Today as a serial technology entrepreneur who was ahead of the learning curve, meaning technology was always evolving, but Arjun was always ahead of the new technologies. They were pioneer. They were transforming the technology landscape, meaning they were bringing new technology. That is how technology moved ahead. In fact, at some point of time, they had better technology than Apple computer. So there are many information embedded in this slide. You may read to understand Arjun Malhotra, but being an IITian, you should know that he has enormous contribution for the well-being of IIT, hostel, departments, overall IIT administration, and he always had an eye on the functioning of IIT. In fact, it is his vision that he always tried to impose on IIT, for which IIT has grown this big and this great. Else perhaps we would not be what we are today. So it makes all sense to look upon him for inspiration about doing anything. Keeping that in mind, I requested him to deliver a lecture to my students. In previous session, Anish Reddy delivered a lecture. Lokesh Gupta, Anish and Lokesh are the co-founders of Entrepreneurship Cell. Then Pritam Prashun also delivered a lecture from Austria. Austria. So those three lectures were organized. This time I thought, let us go for a change. So I invited venture capitalists in the beginning, and Arjun has kindly agreed to talk. And let me tell you, whosoever attended Arjun's lectures, they all felt that it comes with a different kind of energy, and he is capable of transmitting that energy to his audience in a big way. And you feel rejuvenated, you feel empowered. So he has kindly agreed to deliver a lecture. Tentatively, it is scheduled on the next Friday, not tomorrow, Friday after tomorrow. I am still trying to change it to the weekend because, I foresee that there will be a prolonged question and answer session, because he's a man of huge experience and he mentored several successful companies, not just some startups. Several successful companies. He's in the board of many companies. More importantly, his son is managing a venture capital fund. It is funded by him only, but his son is looking after this. So network, just having a connectivity with him is a huge leverage benefit for you. You think anything in future, somebody approaches you and tells you that can you connect me with somebody worth a name, you can just refer them to Arjun Malhotra because you will have the contact and you can maintain the contact moving forward by frequently sending him a mail or something. So take this opportunity. I would like to have this during the weekend. I have to try. So I'll try for that. But tentatively, he is supposed to speak to you Friday during class hours. Let me see if I do it on a weekend. And if you guys think that I'm kind of wasting your time or something, then maybe I'll give you a off just before NSEM, perhaps. Possible. I'm open to anything that you guys will like, whatever. So to give you a timeline about Arjun at the beginning, Arjun, this is about Shiv Nadar. I took this from some previous lectures. Normally, nowadays, I'm not covering this part. Earlier, every day I used to cover some entrepreneur. That is a good idea, but then content has become so large that it became difficult for me to spend so much time talking about entrepreneurs. And I'll reintroduce them. Today I'm talking about it because Arjun has kindly agreed to talk to. So I just wanted to give a brief. We will talk more about him before his lecture. So forget about the background of Shiv Nadar. Shiv Nadar was a chairman of IIT Kharagpur at some point of time. I think about 5 years back or so. So Arjun and Shiv Nadar, they actually had started growing together from 1975 or so till 1998 or 97. Now that's a huge long association. He met Arjun and 4 others at DCM, Delhi Cloth Mill. They started microcomputer under Televista brand to market microcomputer at a time when India had just 250 personal computers. Unbelievably, Uttar Pradesh Electronic Corporation invested in the company. They became a venture capitalist. In those days, we did not know that there is a term called venture capitalist. Even US, perhaps, venture capitalist was a new phrase, construct. But then in those days, it was so powerful, meaning this computer thing was so powerful an idea in those days that UP Electronic Corporation invested money to get 26% equity in Hindustan Computers Limited to compete with IBM, the contemporary of Apple. 1977 Janata Party came to power. They drove away, particularly George Fernandez. He said no place for foreign companies. So IBM was driven out and HCL Computers could fill the void squarely. They even started manufacturing in Singapore and so many other things. I won't spend so much time talking about it, but Arjun quit HCL Limited sometime in 97 or 98. And HCL Computers went public. Then they started the largest BPO in Ireland, and they were the only vendor for supplying visibility of landing software to Boeing. Shiv Nadar was awarded Padma Bhushan. I'm not sure whether Arjun was awarded or not. Now that is about Arjun and Shiv Nadar. You can read more about them. It's wonderful. The more you will read, the more you will feel enamored and you get motivated. Now look at this sentence. Capital is the lifeblood of a new venture. Without capital, there is no business, something like that. And moving forward on the road to success, you start with an idea, then gradually you develop a minimum viable prototype, and then finally you go to market and start commercial operation. You achieve growth and sustain the growth. That is the life cycle of a startup. At every stage of this life cycle, if you can define a stage as a milestone or anything, then there is a different kind of funding opportunities or fundraising opportunities, different kind of people. Meaning venture capitalist will not come to you at the beginning when you are just toying with a new idea, because they have less risk appetite. At the beginning, when you are just toying with an idea, there is very limited prospect of you becoming successful, very limited prospect of that idea becoming a successful product. And that is why those people who are moneyed people, they have a lot of money to invest. They cannot invest a small sum in a startup idea because they have huge money to manage, number one. So if they invest small sums to a small startup, that will become a million companies to manage all the fund. They cannot manage those companies. They have to be closely associated with the companies so as to be able to take care of their own interest. So at this point, it is the friends and relatives who will be interested to invest, nobody else. Once your idea receives some traction, meaning it shows promise, you have a minimum viable prototype, etc., and some customers validate your idea, then you can move to an angel. Now the angel will think that, okay, so you have got some customers, so there is some success. So, okay, I can invest in your company. Maybe I can invest some 1 crore rupees, you give me some 20% equity, so etc., etc. So as you move forward, the risk perception reduces. This money that angel brings in, these are called risk capital. Why? Because they can absorb higher amount of risk. Whereas suppose you approach to a bank, the bank will say, you're not making profit, I am not there. You should come to me once you make some profit. That comes much later. Those are not so much risk capital. Similarly, VCs also will say, what is your turnover? How many customers have you acquired? You tell them that I have acquired 10 customers. Then they will say, okay, sorry, thank you, you are good, going good, but come to us later when you have maybe 500 customers or maybe a million registered users or something. So that is how the path to success is defined, and then at different stages, how the funding agencies are different and their risk perception is different. Now the first part, forget about the first part, look at the last part. This is the company as a whole. Starting from when you are running the company, you purchase input, you need money from the bank. Now when the input is arrived at the shop floor, you start transforming them into goods in process and finished goods. You keep the finished goods in stock yard, lot of finished goods that requires a lot of money to make. So bank is always that. The green lines are all money, movement of fund or money. Then finished goods reaches to the dealers or distributors, then they start making payments, so money starts coming to the bank. Finally, it goes to retailers. Some of the retailers make direct payment to the company, so that is why this green line. The blue lines are the movement of the goods. Here it is raw material movement, goods in process to finished goods movement, finished goods to dealer, etc. Now, when you receive the money goes to the bank. But then this part is working capital fund. So this is very different compared to what is long-term money. This entire thing is about working capital. This is about working capital. So, sorry, this line should be here. Now, you know that there is something called long-term loan. Long-term loan is not part of this whole scheme of things. This, whatever I have just now described, this is the management of working capital fund. You keep your money in the bank and you keep bank's loan in the bank in the same account, from where you draw money for purchase raw material, you draw money for goods in process, for finished goods. Then whenever they are delivered to dealers, dealers give you money and that money goes to the bank. Similarly, retailers. So this is the working capital management, working capital cycle, operating cycle, whatever you call it. Now, when you make some profit, or maybe whenever you raise money from purchase of machinery, plant equipment. That money is given by bank in the form of long-term loan. And that long-term loan is repayable through monthly installment. So you, based on your cash flow, every month you take away some money from here and then pay to the bank, and that long-term loan outstanding goes down, gradually moving forward. That is how long-term loan is managed, and this is a balance sheet item, not a profit loss account item. That is how. Now, funding decision is very tricky. Even if suppose your fellow students or your seniors approach to you at some point of time that will you invest in my company? You give me 1 lakh rupees, I'm going to give you 5% of my equity. You will be at a, you will be means you will not have a straightforward decision. You will be kind of confused as to whether, undecided as to whether I should invest or I should not invest. One of my students approached me for investing in some company in Hyderabad in which he was working. It's a wonderful company. Actually, at that point of time, I realized that this is a wonderful company. And the company gave them equity, and he wanted to quit the company. He wanted to sell the equity. Company was not interested to buy back. So he was exploring whether I'll be interested to buy the equity. That point of time, I was reluctant, and I talked to Anish whether this is a good company to invest. Anish said, I'm not very sure. So I did not invest. But today I think that if I would have invested, I would have become a rich man by now. Same thing with Anish also. When Anish failed at the beginning, he took 10 lakh rupees from IIT, and I was part of this investment decision making body at IIT Kharagpur. And he came back after 6 months saying that we have burnt all the 10 lakh, give me 5 lakh rupees more. Only then we can sustain, otherwise we'll shut down the company. During the meeting, most of the people were against giving another 5 lakh. And I was kind of interested to give him the 5 lakh rupees for maybe 1%, 2% of his equity. But then I was undecided. I thought they have already burned 10 lakh rupees. Should I give them 5 lakh? I was not a moneyed man at that point of time, but I did have 5 lakh rupees in the bank and I could issue a check immediately. So I could not make a decision. In the evening, actually, IIT Kharagpur, meaning the committee members, they decided to give him the money. So I lost that opportunity. If I would have given him 5 lakh those days, perhaps it would be something like more than 100 crore. That 5 lakh would be more than 100 crore rupees. So this is decisions that is very difficult to make. I'll give you more example. Peter Thiel invested only $5 lakh in Facebook in 2004. 8 years later, that became $1 billion. 5 lakh rupees, $5 lakh to $1 billion. Unthinkable amount of money. Similarly, look at this example. Airbnb approached to many people for $1,50,000 for 10% of equity, $1,50,000. But nobody wanted to give, and nobody actually gave them the money. Airbnb failed miserably to raise $1,50,000. And how many years? 9 years later, Airbnb was valued $31 billion. That 1,50,000 would be $3.1 billion in 9 years. Those people who rejected this proposal must be biting their fingers. God knows what they might be doing. But then these decisions are very difficult to make. Those people who rejected, they are very experienced people. They have all the tools available under them, but still they did not see that Airbnb is going to emerge as a huge company. Same thing happened with Dropbox. Nobody wanted to invest. They just rejected Dropbox by saying that you must be an idiot to think that you can be successful, because more than 100 companies started file sharing businesses and they failed miserably after raising huge amount of money from investors. So forget about it. Then Dropbox went on to become a decacorn. So this kind of investment decisions are very difficult. How many types of investments are there? Meaning funds are available. Funds are available in the form of equity capital. This is same as the money that you bring in. You bring in money in the business as equity capital, and investors also, other investor can also bring in money in the form of equity capital. They can bring in money as preference capital or even debt, maybe even grant. Some people will give you money just like that. They will think that you are doing a wonderful job. Take my money and promote the business. Don't think that these people are fools. They are intelligent people. They earn money. They understand. They are much more matured compared to many other people. Many people have a lot of money. They think that this money has no value if it is there in the bank. And they think that they don't need more money moving forward. They can manage their own future and the future of their offspring. They want to just donate money to businesses that are creating wealth for the society at large. It need not be a social initiative, social venture. Suppose you are working in renewable energy. So renewable energy is good for not only for the country, for you, or for anybody in particular. It is good for the world at large because it is going to reduce emission, and eventually you are going to create a better world for the next generation. So some people who have a lot of money and they're looking for opportunities. Many people are looking for opportunities. We received this kind of proposals at IIT Kharagpur. Some alumni from IIT Kharagpur, they come here, they say that I want to donate all my belongings to IIT Kharagpur, but I just want to make sure that this money is used for good cause, for research, doing research on something that will do good to the society. So there can be many kinds of money. Now, while talking about balance sheets, I did give you some idea about preliminary pre-operative expenses. Those are the expenses that are necessary for starting the company at the beginning to really organize everything. Suppose you are thinking of whatever, that may not be a good example. I am flipping that proposition. Just think of starting a company. Before you even think of selling your first product, you're going to end up spending a lot of money for product development, for organizing the team, for recruiting the first people, paying rent to your premises at the beginning, etc., etc. All that are there at the beginning on my left are the expenses that you incur before starting commercial operation. So you can imagine there may be many more than whatever I have written. There may be many more depending on the context, on the type of business that you do. So all these are preliminary and pre-operative, meaning pre to operation, before operation. What kind of assets you can create? You create assets like you have some cash requirement, inventory, other current assets, machinery, computer, etc., etc. And how do you fund them? You fund them both taking things on credit, that is called accounts payable. There may be other current liabilities, friends and relatives. Then you bring in some money. Some investors may or might not have given you some money. Crowdsourcing, money that you source from the crowd through some crowdsourcing platform, and then you might even raise some loan. Most unlikely, but sometimes some startup raise loan as well. What purpose for which you need money at the beginning? You can see them here. These are the purposes, or you can read them here. These are the purposes for raising money at the beginning. And what are the sources of this? These are the sources. These are the purposes. These are the sources. So these are the purposes and these are the sources. So eventually you make a balance sheet to balance both sides. You need these kinds of assets like preliminary, pre-operative. Other than that, you need some computer, some machinery, some cash, some inventory. Everything together becomes 34.80 lakhs if we are thinking in terms of lakhs. And in terms of sources, these are the sources. So total becomes 34.8, 34.8. We have already discussed that. So eventually, these are the assets that you create. These are the sources of money or liabilities. Owner's equity is this. Now, owner's equity is not just some money. we express owner's equity in terms of number of equity shares. What is equity shares? Equity shares are the owner's equity distributed equally among number of shares with some face value. So suppose you have 2000 rupees, say rupees, 2000 rupees of equity capital. Now, if you have equity shares with a denomination of 10 rupees each, so your 2000 rupees is distributed among 200 shares of rupees 10 each. That is how you express. So this 10 rupees represents one share. So one share is rupees 10. You have 200 shares. So you have total of 200 multiplied by 10 is equal to 2000 equity capital. 2000 rupees of equity capital. That is how equity shares are represented. Now this face value or par value of 10 is not sacrosanct. You can have face value of rupees 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 100, 200, 1 lakh, anything. There is no hard and fast rule that you must have 10 rupees of share, 1 rupee of share on it. This is your convenience and your prerogative to decide what should be your face value of share. That will also depend on how you're going to distribute. Suppose you have 5 shareholders. Now you cannot have one share is equal to 1 lakh rupees, then you won't be able to distribute among 5 shareholders. Suppose you want to raise say 50,000, 10,000, 5,000 from different shareholders, then you need denomination lower than 5,000 rupees. So depending on all that, you decide. Let us move forward fast. This term is very important. Authorized capital, fully, partly paid up capital, pre-money, post-money capital and value. One is authorized capital. I already explained. Authorized capital is the equity capital that has been authorized by the register of companies. If you are a private limited company or 1% limited liability company, then you have to register your company with the register of companies, ROC. And while applying for registration, one of the important information that you need is the authorized capital. How much capital the ROC will authorize you to raise. Suppose you want to raise maybe 5 lakh rupees within the next 5 years or so, then you would like to have authorized capital slightly or little over 5 lakh rupees. Because if you want to raise beyond authorized capital, then you have to take permission from ROC. It comes maybe after a period of 1 month or so. So you don't want to take that risk. You want to keep authorized capital at a slightly higher level so that moving forward, you don't have the problem. Now, if you have authorized capital of say much more than what you foresee, you will unnecessarily pay too much of money to ROC because ROC fees are related to authorized capital. So you want to keep it at a safe distance, at the same time at a minimum level. Now, next 2-3 slides will be regarding valuation or percentage dilution. So listen carefully because I have already discussed and I may not discuss it again, but this will be highly meaningful moving forward. Equity capital. Suppose you 3 friends start a business. You 3 friends start a business. You are A and another guy is B, another person is C, A, B, C. And you want to raise 2 lakh rupees as initial equity capital from the 3 friends. You may have authorized capital of 5 lakh rupees, but you don't want to raise 5 lakh rupees at this point of time. You want to keep that cushion because moving forward, maybe you will be inviting some investor when your authorized capital requirement will be more. So your authorized capital is 5 lakh, whereas your paid up capital is going to be only 2 lakh. Now, how you are going to distribute this 2 lakh is your prerogative, meaning you three people will decide how much money is brought in by whom. Suppose you as A bring in 50,000 rupees, 50,000 rupees, and your par value or face value of share is rupees 10. So 50,000 rupees will be divided into 5,000 shares of rupees 10 each. So 5,000 multiplied by 10 is 50,000. That is one thing. Now, what is your shareholding in the company? Your total equity capital is 2 lakh, out of which you are holding 50,000. So 50,000 divided by 2 lakh is what is your holding. 25% is your holding. Now your friend B brings in 80,000 rupees. So 80,000 rupees divided by 2 lakh rupees is 40%. So your friend will hold 40%. Your another friend brings in 70,000 rupees. So 70,000 divided by 2 lakh is 35%. So he holds 35%. Now look carefully. After a while, you want to invite an angel investor. You need some money and you need maybe 1 crore rupees. Now you approach to angel investor saying that, look, we are interested to raise money, or we are looking for raising money. I don't know how this 2,50,000 came into being. It should be 2 lakh. Maybe there is a mistake, whatever. Whatever, that I'll take care of that. 2 lakh divided by 0.8 is okay, sorry. This is right, this is right. I'm sorry, I'm getting confused. Now you invite an investor who wants to join in, and he says that, okay, I can give you 1 crore rupees, but I want 20% stake. Look carefully, he brings in 1 crore rupees, but he tells you that I want 20% of your company, meaning that his shareholding in the company will be 20%. Irrespective of whatever money he brings, he just wants 20%. Now, how this will be taken care of is the topic of this slide. Now, when he tells you that I want 20%, then you have to back calculate that this guy is going to hold 20%. We three are holding 100% now. So when this guy comes in, our holding will be 100% minus 20%. How much is your holding? 80%. So how much will be the equity has to be estimated. So your holding is 80%. So you divide the 2 lakh rupees that you have brought in by 0.8. That will give you the total equity after this guy comes in. So 22 lakh rupees divided by 0.8 becomes 2,50,000. So new equity will be 2,50,000 rupees, out of which you are holding 2 lakh rupees. You three are holding 2 lakh rupees. That means you are holding 80%. Rest of the 2,50,000, that is 50,000 rupees of shares, will be held by the investor. So 50,000 divided by 2,50,000 is equal to 20%. He holds 20% now. Post money, your equity is 2,50,000. You hold 50,000 shares divided by 2,50,000 is equal to 20%. Your friend B holds 80,000 rupees worth of share. So his holding is 80,000 divided by 2,50,000 is 32,000, and the like. Okay, so I hope you understand that. Now post this is just to show you how your holding is modified. You used to hold 25% or so, now it is 20. Your friend B is holding 32% compared to the 40%. Your friend C is holding now only 28% compared to 35%. The new investor is holding 20%. That is how the investment is reduced. I am going to, Yeah, go ahead.
So the actual amount of money brought in by investor is not counted, like it is not considered for
No,
calculation.
that is not considered. That depends on the valuation. When this guy brings in 1 crore rupees and tells you that I won 20% of the company, that means the value of the company becomes 1 crore divided by 0.2. 1 crore divided by 0.2, that means 5 crore rupees becomes the value of your company. Out of 5 crore, he brings in 1 crore, so he holds only 20%, whereas you three are the co-founders. You have created a value of 4 crore rupees. That is why you are holding 4 crore divided by 5 crore is equal to 80%. That is in terms of the value of the company. Value of the company is on one side, equity of the company is definitively on the other side. Get this point? Meaning your holding is 80% and you hold only 2 lakh rupees worth of shares. Your investors hold only 50,000 shares, but he brings in 1 crore rupees. Now you may think that we brought in only 2 lakh rupees. How we hold 80% in a company that is valued 5 crore rupees? The fact is that before the investor brings in 1 crore rupees, the investors will value your company and they will see that the value of your company is 4 crore rupees. That is called pre-money valuation. So they will make a pre-money valuation of 4 crore rupees. That is how that investor decides that to get 20% in your company, the investors have to bring in 1 crore rupees. So 4 crore plus 1 crore becomes 5 crore, wherein the investor has invested 1 crore. That is how the investor holds 20%. I hope that is clear.
Yes, sir, clear.
Okay, thank you. Let me move forward. It's slightly fast paced because I have just 10 minutes. I have to cover a significant amount. Otherwise, I'm lagging far behind. There are too many slides on. I'm going to take maybe 3 lectures on funding new ventures, but even in 3 lectures, I won't be able to complete. So I have to cut down somewhere. Now, when you build a product, at the beginning, the risk perception is very high and gradually you find success and the risk perception moves forward, downward, and then maybe at some point in risk perception is kind of saturated and the valuation moves up. As the risk goes down, value starts moving up. Okay, so that is how. Now, if you see track record of other companies, Hewlett Packard started with only $538, $538, not billion dollar. Their valuation is $33 billion. Threadless started with $1,000. This is in dollar. Their valuation has gone up to $36 billion. Dell started with $1,000. Spanx started with $5,000. American Apparel started with, I'm sorry, this is billion dollar valuation. Sorry, they started with almost zero. This is, I don't know, something like zero. But they see, look at the, this is the value and the blue is the money that they started with. This guy started with $60,000. Their value is 7 billion. This guy started with $1,000 or something. Their value is something else. It's not so much important. I just wanted to convey that irrespective of whatever amount you start with, that has no correlation how much value you create moving forward. And this slide actually is to drive home that point. I'll quickly complete these slides. I just want to complete it today, so don't worry about it. See, when you have an idea, you are at the bootstrap level here. you have some idea and you are the sole owner of the company, meaning 100% is held by you. So nobody else is there. Now you toy with the idea, you find some success, and then you invite a friend that will you join me? And then your friend says, yes, why not? And you give 50% to your friend. Initially you are alone, but you give 50% to your friend and you have a co-founder, and your valuation also move a little forward. These green lines are valuation, but then you seed 50% holding to your friend, and then you two are co-founders. Now moving forward, from idea stage you go to a product stage. You have the first product ready, and then you invite your uncle or somebody, and your uncle tells you that okay, your valuation may be now 4 crore rupees, and I am going to chip in something, but then I want 20% of the equity. The example that I gave you right now, uncle wants to hold 20% by giving 1 crore rupees. So you now your holding from 50-50 goes down to 40-40. Your uncle holds 20%. Now you find more success, and then you approach to an angel investor. Angel investor brings in more money, and then these are the angels. They bring in money. They want 15% of equity. So when angel wants 15% and they bring maybe 10 crore rupees, your uncle's portion goes down. And whenever angel comes, they normally insist that there should be some option pool. What is option pool? Is the money, is the equity, not the money, is the equity that you earmark for employees and staffs and maybe for future something, mostly to recruit uh, very expert employees, or maybe say you want to recruit a CEO, professional CEO, he or she is going to ask for some holding. So you earmark or set aside a percentage. And in the process, your uncle's holding goes down to 12.5%, and co-founders who are holding 100%, 50%, and then 40%, now they go down to 25% each. Now look at the valuation. It's moving forward, moving higher and higher. Now you need even more money. So you approach to venture capitalists. They want 20%. So you give them 20%, bring much more money, maybe in terms of 100 crore, and angels holding goes down to 12%. Your holding goes down to 20%, uncle goes down to 10%, and option pools goes down to 18%. Now after a while you need more money, you go public, public holds 15%. In the process VC goes down to 18%, etc., etc. That is how this money, and when you go public, there are a lot of public holding and your valuation goes through the roof. It becomes a highly valued company. That's it. My animation is not really connected. You need to spend so much time on animation to really make it connected to the click that you make. So your holding of the company diluted. That is how I just wanted to show how your equity goes becomes diluted moving forward as you raise more money. Your holding in the company gets diluted. Debt does not dilute equity. You get some grant at any stage. Like there is a venture capitalist, a social venture capitalist called Willgrow. They give money to you and they give a portion as grant, another portion as equity. You should visit Willgrow website to see how this happens. I will take you to their website moving forward. Now there is something called securities. Securities, suppose you have money in your pocket. Money is not security. Now you put that money in a bank, the bank gives you a piece of paper called fixed deposit receipt. Now that becomes a security. That piece of paper is a security. You can assign that to somebody else. Suppose you have this fixed deposit receipt of 1 lakh rupees. Now suddenly you need money. You have two options. Go to bank and get that money back, but then bank will charge a penalty for premature discounting. You do not want to do that. You can come to me or somebody, to your dad, that I have this 1 lakh rupees of fixed deposit at the rate of 10%. But bank is telling me that if you prematurely discount, I'll give you interest of 3%. I don't want to lose that. Why don't you buy this FD receipt and give me an interest of 7% I'm going to give you. So I'll be more than interested because this has so many months of interest already accrued. So I get the money. I will buy at 7% interest from you. So you are gainer, I am gainer, because I am getting 10% interest rate on that. So you in the process securitized the fixed deposit receipt. It cannot be done. Actually, in reality, fixed deposit receipt cannot be securitized because it's not actually a negotiable instrument. Only negotiable instruments can be securitized that are different, like a share. Suppose you have a property or a business. Now you issue shares and then you can issue shares to public. Then you can securitize your company. That is different. Okay. Now, seniority of security is another concept. Like suppose if you remember a balance sheet, I think I have an example somewhere. Yeah. Now, suppose you have a balance sheet, then in the balance sheet, you will have this kind of thing. Trade creditors, where is that? Trade creditors is something that you are familiar with. Unsecured loan is another you are familiar with. There is something called bank loan. It's not visible. There is something called bank loan. There is something called preference equity. And then there is something called equity capital. So suppose your company goes liquidated for whatever reason through a verdict from the court, decree of court, the company is liquidated. Now suppose your company is liquidated for 1000 rupees. When it is liquidated, you have to distribute this money. You cannot say that I am the owner of the company, I should get the money before anybody else. In fact, there is a seniority of these security holders. They are the bank who are the owner of secured money. Where is it? Yeah, bank. Their loan is secured through some security. I'll elaborate more in the next day. Today I just want to finish this slide before just the time. So bank has high security. Then there are other loans who are junior to bank loan. They get money after the bank. Then there are trade creditors. They get money after these creditors. If there are unsecured loans, they get money here. And then if anything is left, then preference shareholders get money. If anything is left after payment of all those people, only then founders will get some money because their seniority is the least. Okay, so suppose you receive say 1300 rupees by liquidating all your assets. So the first will be the bank to claim money. They have their liability. Your liability to bank is 1000. They will just run away with 1000 rupees out of 1500. Then there will be loan on second lien, meaning they have a second charge on the asset. They will take 200 rupees. Whatever is left after that, 100 rupees will be given to trade creditors. These guys will not get anything because nothing is left. These people will get nothing because nothing is left. You will get jills because nothing is left. Suppose you get to 2500 rupees. Then bank will take 1000 because their liability is only 1000. Then second mortgage or something, they'll get 200 because their liability is 200. Then trade creditors at 200, they will get their money. These people will get their money, and preference capital shareholders will get their money. Left over is only 300. So you get 300 irrespective of whatever is your investment. Okay, that is how money is determined. Okay, so thank you very much. If you have question, you can raise. Otherwise, we have to call it quit. I'll not move beyond this. Okay. I have already taken the attendance. If there are no questions, then